born in the shadow of a Gulf war, less than a year old, already on world tour. Said g'day before. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mashood. For Cultural Day, I am representing my home country of Pakistan. Our traditional dress is called the shalwar kameez. It is made up of two pieces. The top is called the kameez, and the bottom is the paint is the trousers are called the shalwar. Our national sport is cricket. I am crazy about cricket, and Shahid Afridi is my favorite player. He can hit so many balls very hard. I'm a baller, so I would like to ball to Shahid Afridi. I think he will not be able to hit my balls. Okay. Pakistan has a population of 140 million people who live in 4 main provinces. There are 6 main languages, and my native language is Sindhi, but it is not the most popular. Okay. Thank you. It wasn't fair. Half of those kids couldn't speak another language, and the other half had been here for years. I just arrived, and I was putting myself out there. Couldn't they see I was making an effort? If it were up to me, we'd still be back in Pakistan. I didn't make a choice to be here. I didn't ask to be different. At least I didn't have a Angrezi accent when I spoke Sindhi. We grew up speaking Sindhi at home. So the 2 years that we did move back to Pakistan, I thought I'd blend right in. But it didn't stop my family from turning me into their Angrezi Toto, Aussie parrot. Mashood, do you love me? Yes, Pupu, I love you very much. Mashood, where do you come from? Chacha, I was born in Pakistan, but I have lived in Australia for 5 years. Putra, Mashood, you should say, I come from Australia. I am an Australian boy. I didn't know which was worse. The family who thought I was wrong, or the kids who thought I was funny. I never thought I'd call Australia home. It's probably my family who ruined my accent anyway. If I hadn't been forced to speak simplified cutesy English for those 2 years, I'd have maintained my English and sharpened my Sindhi. Instead, I had to explain to every snickering Jack and Jill why I couldn't say my mate's name right. Or, what's his name? Vil. What's his name? Tom. What's his name? Rudy. Vil, Tom, Rudy, Vil, Tom, Rudy, Vil, Tom, Rudy. They'd make me say it over and over and over again, and they'd piss themselves laughing. I didn't get what was so funny about a couple of hard D's and a soft V. Before long, they started calling me Apu, and they'd come up to me and tell me to say, thank you, come again. I didn't get the reference, but one of the kids told me that it was because I was like a cartoon character from a TV show. Well, that was kind of cool because someone like me on TV? Up until then, the only characters I'd been able to relate to had been Japanese cartoons and puppets for babies. I was so excited. I went home and I convinced my family that we had to watch The Simpsons together. That night's episode actually featured the Nahasapima Pedalons, and it was so funny. But when my brother and I laughed and joked and said that he kind of looked and sounded like Dad, my parents weren't happy. What? You funny, Everyone else's family Simpsons listen diya. It's funny. Papa jado mustache bhi same tas, accent bhi same tas. Why can't we be like all the other kids? Of course they're not like us. Of course they're not Muslim. They don't have to go to a different line at camp for food. Why can't you speak English at home? Macho, ta अंग्रेजी छो कोन था ॻाल्हायो? If we spoke English at home, then I would. अगर असां घर में अंग्रेजी ॻाल्हायूं त पोइ मूंखे अहिड़ो stupid accent न हुजे हा. ॿिया ॿार मूंखे bully कंदा आहिनि. What's bullying? Bullying is like जेको Simpsons में जेको हूंदो आहे जेको हीअं हा Nelson जेको ईअं कंदो आहे. Bully means like mean kids. What? I'm telling you, the other kids are being. ॿिया ॿार मूंखे bully था कनि. तव्हांखे रुगो TV जी परवाह. You only care about what we're watching. Yes, I've done my homework. You only care about what we're watching on the TV. At least TV funny ah. At least TV makes sense kandi ah. It's always stupid prayer time. Macho, it's always namaz time. Why don't they understand me? I'm careful what I say, from alphabet to alif bay. But at the end of every day, they act like they can't even stand me. Why don't they understand me? I try talking nice and smoothly, like I watched in all the movies. I say words like cool and groovy, but they do not come in handy. Why don't they understand me? I'll listen to their jokes. Even if it's me they poke, I'll repeat if I misspoke. I'll be their best friend gladly. Why don't they understand me? Can't they see that I'm trying? Their words will leave me crying. Last year I was flying to Australia with my family. Why don't they understand me? Am I just too Pakistani? Is my accent just too funny? Do they think I'm from the army? I don't want to fight them, please. It's all because of how I sound. And maybe because my skin is brown. I heard them saying on the playground that I'm the weirdest kid in town. To fit in, I must make a choice. I have to change my look and voice. I'll say their words like bloody noise when kicking the footy with the boys. So I'll watch what's on TV. I'll study hard on how to speak. I'll learn what no one wants to teach, from BBC to DBZ. But wouldn't it be DBZ? All these rules, they hurt my head. Any error and I go red. Maybe I won't talk instead. I took a summer holiday and a new school, but I managed to shake the accent, or at least make a new one. A daily regimen of reading from the children's encyclopedia, watching the news, cartoons, home and away, a current affair. If they were speaking English, I was tuned in. Mum wasn't a big fan of the Aussie TV. She thought it was too crude. She would cringe and make us change the channel every time someone said bloody or a buck. I wondered why she thought everything Aussies said sounded wrong or dirty. She told me a story about when we first arrived. Mum and Dad decided that they would get themselves acquainted with the neighborhood. They took me out for a walk in the stroller. It was a pretty average day, but they figured it was time enough to start to get used to the neighborhood. They were out and about, and they walked down Main Street. The sounds of people out and about doing their own thing was interesting. They walked past a pub with this massive line out the front. And the sound of the live music and the stench of the alcohol in the air was a bit of an assault to the senses. The culture shock would have been massive for them. But this was an opportunity to ingratiate themselves and get used to what it's like to be an Aussie. Plus, Dad had just learned a new word and he was eager to try it out. The inside joke was that it sounded kind of like the Sindhi word for donkey. But this is a chance to become a real Aussie. And he wasn't going to pass it up. He'd been practicing how to pronounce it all the way through, and he'd even been muttering it under his breath. He shored up his courage when he saw someone walking towards him. And with a big grin and an even bigger wave, he said, "G'day, mate." The man stopped dead in his tracks. He looked my dad cold in the eyes and he said, "Well, what's so bloody good about it then?" Dad shrunk at the man's response. We turned around and we walked straight back home. It's hard enough trying to fit in and not stand out too much, but to be friendly and try and make amends and to get shut down like that. That's why I wasn't going to be an outsider. I decided those holidays that I was going to fit in. I practiced my English, I learned how to bounce a footy, and I rehearsed saying Anthony Koo to Feeties over and over and over again. The next year was great. I made a ton of friends and they all knew my name. Yeah, they'd call me Mash for short, but at least they weren't calling me Apu anymore. Because of all the studying I'd been doing, I became an awesome speller. All the kids knew that I was smart. I even took up guitar lessons. Got to play in a school assembly and it was a bit of a rush playing for a crowd. I joined the local cricket club and I told the coach that Australia was my favorite team. He liked hearing that because the Pakis are a bunch of cheating, useless shits who can't field. But you're really an Aussie kid, aren't you, mate? The most important part was not standing out. Whatever everyone else did, I did. My mate Vil went for Carlton, so now I backed the Blues. My mate Peter got a pair of Nikes, so I begged my parents to buy me a pair as well. Dad said he got them for a great price from Caribbean Gardens. I don't know, it sounded posh. And my mate Rahul, well, he was meant to be a vegetarian Hindu, but he said he didn't like the veggie option, so he just didn't say anything. He and I would eat meat pies at lunch together, and I couldn't really taste the difference between this meat and halal meat, which is what Muslims are supposed to have. And I figured, if I'm going to hell, at least I'd have Rahul right there with me. I wondered if Hindus and Muslims go to the same hell, but when I asked my mum, she told me to not worry about it, do my homework, and go pray. But I was no longer that weird kid who ate weird food, sounded weird, and believed in weird stuff. I was just Mashood. I was just Mash, a normal Aussie kid.
Hospitalized in a critical condition, blown up.
The afternoon of carnage.
No one in our family thought the events of September 11 would come to affect us in any way. We were mortified as we watched the images of people jumping out of towers. The scale of the attack was unbelievable. But we felt so far away, so removed. How could this come back to us? We had family living in Texas at the time, but they were the first to call us and tell us that they were safe. No doubt, it was a horrific thing to witness, and even worse to have been close to, but as a kid, I couldn't really fathom tragedy on that scale. See, I remember thinking at the time that if America's trade towers had collapsed, then America wouldn't be so good at trade anymore, right? Thanks to a copy of Age of Empires I got from a box of Nutrigrain, that was about the extent of my political knowledge. I figured as an Australian, this was kind of a good thing. Australia would come up in the world, so yay us, or come on, as Leighton Hewitt would say. My newfound Aussie personality made me bulletproof, and our overall blasé approach to life made it easy to blend in. It was a dark time for everyone around the world and confusing enough as a kid. But then, one person became a household name: Osama bin Laden. My first reaction was, that name sounds familiar. That's my cousin's name. It was the same cousin living in Texas at the time. Apparently, his teachers suggested that he change his name to Sam. And then, they started showing the pictures. Brown skin, wide eyes, thick eyebrows, crook nose. I had more in common with this guy than Apu. And apparently he's Muslim like me. But no, he's from Afghanistan, not Pakistan. And he's got this big beard. And he doesn't even speak English in any of the videos that they show of him. Plus, I'm an Aussie. So what's he got to do with me? My parents agreed. They reassured me that this man had nothing to do with us. He wasn't even a Muslim like us because Muslims don't murder innocent people. There's nothing to worry about. Do your homework, go pray, no problems. But the next few years became increasingly difficult. It started off nice and innocent. Basic questions like, what does Mashud mean in Arabic? Do you all pray 5 times a day? In a way, it was kind of good because people were taking an interest in who I am, my background, and Islam in general, right? But as the media's curiosity took a hostile turn, so did my so-called friends. Does Mashud mean terrorist? Do you all pray for us to die? Is Osama bin Laden your uncle? I had to move schools to get away from all the barbs and the taunts. I went to a different high school to all the other kids, thinking that I'd get away. But as it turns out, an exclusive private school in Melbourne suburbs was an even worse place for an overachieving brown little Muslim kid. Durka, Durka, Jihad Salam. You can't touch me because you think I'm haram. Durka, Durka, Jihad Muhammad. Don't get him mad because then he might bomb us. All I ever wanted was to fit in. But from day one, my A1s meant I needed thick skin. It wasn't enough to watch Hilary Duff or Warnie's wrist spin. I was the sick kid. They'd say that the only reason I got straight A's was so I could learn to lay waste to this great place. To them, every scribble in my book was a bomb plot or a gunshot, so they best not let me get hot or I might just let off. Your science diorama is an ode to Osama. Whole class goes bananas when it's brought up in drama. And they always found a way. Because of the nightly news that nobody thought was slightly skewed, I walked around so tightly screwed, knowing what said to me might be rude. And it always was. I heard your dad's a terrorist. At first it was unsettling, but then I started to believe them. I got some advice that said, don't get mad, get even. Well, if it's fear they wanted, then it's what I'd give them. They said I'm on a jihad, well, no quarter given. The stories that I used to write of misadventures and youthful nights now brimmed with bombs and jets in flight and all the ways that I would fight. It's funny. If not for the infidels, I wouldn't know the word infidel. From paradise, my parents fell to raise the devil in this hell. I started going to Saturday school, separate myself from all these fools. I learned of rivers flowing cool where I would swim if I followed the rules. Everything became moralistic. They're sick and twisted, but I'd been gifted. This religion picked and lifted me above the ones who'd missed it. I was different. I was better. With the righteous, stick together. Keep my thoughts pure on a tether, and eternal life will be mine forever. what about my friends? Didn't they have a chance? Well, they made the choice not to heed God's commands. And why would you want to be with them? Aren't they the ones who caused offense? In their defense, they didn't know what they said. Well, God will decide that when they are dead. All I ever wanted was to fit in. But thinking and pigment was too big of a difference. It all started to sink in. The wrong skin on the wrong kid in the wrong place at the wrong time. Follow God, walk a straight path, never stray far down the wrong line. But even religion would soon be relinquished, as questions unanswered made faith feel extinguished. I had to move schools again, and I found myself in a multicultural ecosystem once more. There were the jocks who were mostly Anglo, save for the Vietnamese kid with an ochre accent. There were the library kids who were mostly East Asian in heritage, but with a bit of sugar and spice thrown in. No one was surprised that the cricket team was mostly subcontinental. It seemed that everywhere I looked, everyone was mostly something. I became mostly good at my studies. I dropped science and maths for drama and politics, but I still did most of the work. My friends were mostly the same. But as my interests diversified, so did my friendship circle. My childhood hobby of pretending to be someone else made it easy to blend in with the different groups at school. I could spend recess playing footy with the jocks and then go hang out with the drama kids at lunch to do theatre sports. I mostly fit in. My religious practice kind of took a bit of a hit on that compromise too. I became mostly Muslim. See, up until that point, I thought Muslim was my identity. Fitting in was no longer a priority. There was a word for my differentness, and I fit in with the word. Over time, the association wore thin, but I was more or less of a Muslim. I should hang out with the other Muslims, right? I mean, I prayed most of my prayers. I fasted most days in Ramadan. I told my parents that my girlfriend and I were just friends, so my relationship was mostly platonic. And I was adamant that I would never drink. It was so haram, forbidden, and dumb as well. I was never going to do it. And then I got some advice that changed my life forever. I stayed back one night to help out after school, and they gave me a cab charge to get home. My driver was a man named Pablo from Colombia. He was one of the most fascinating men I'd ever met, and he was not short on life advice. Mr. Mash, don't you drink alcohol? What? No, man. I'm 16. And I'm Muslim. Ah, you're Muslim. Very good, very good, very good, very good, very good. Salam alaikum. But listen, Mr. Mash, can I tell you something? You have to get drunk at least once in your life because you have to know what it's like. Once you know what it's like to be drunk, you will be the king of everybody. Let me tell you something, Mr. Mash. Let's say you turn 18 and you go out with all of your friends and you tell them they will buy all of your drinks for the night. Friends who you trust, because you are going to get blind drunk, like leave your wallet at home drunk. And the next morning, you will not remember anything, but you will know what it's like to be drunk. What do you think of this idea, Mr. Mash? Like it makes sense, but I don't know, man. Okay, listen. This is how you do it. Let's say that once you have done this, you go out to a party and you see a girl and she's drunk and she likes you and you like her. How will you know what to say to her? If you know what it's like to be drunk, you are the king of her. You will know exactly what to say. You don't like this example? Okay. Let's say, Mr. Mash, you are out at a club and there is a guy and he's very drunk. And he's angry with you, like F this, F that, bloody this, Aussie drunk. And he wants to fight you. Now, right now, you don't know what to say to him. And you will get in a fight and you will lose. But once you know what it's like to be drunk, you are the king of him. What do you say, Mr. Mash? I don't know, man. Like, it's wrong. Like, I'm never gonna drink. Okay, Mr. Mash, it's just my advice, you know? Take it or leave it. It's alright, it's just Pablo. But listen, Mr. Mash, have you ever done drugs? Oh, whoa. No, like, no way. Okay, yeah, sure. I have to do drugs at least once in my life because then I'll know what it's like to be the king of... No! You must never do drugs. You will be the king of nothing and nobody. Did you think I want to be in this country driving a taxi? Drugs ruined my life. I had my first sip of alcohol in Europe on a trip after school. We were there for a Model UN conference. Esteemed delegates from Australia on a mission to spread world peace. We'd be doing awesome things by day, discovering global resolutions, and then everyone would want to go out at night. I felt like there was something between myself and the others, as close as we all felt. And I would sit in the corner and watch everyone else enjoy themselves, jumping up and down, singing along to Kesha. I didn't get it. But when someone offered me a sip of their raspberry vodka, I thought, what the hell? I'm not getting drunk. I'm just tasting it. That single sip dissolved the barrier that I had put up between myself and everyone else. I think more than the alcohol, I tasted fun, and I was hooked. Before I knew it, even without the alcohol, I was jumping up and down right there with them. Once that trip finished, I hung out with that crew continuously. I joined that Model UN group and we would do these awesome things. We were spreading world peace and empowering and encouraging the next generation of leaders by day. And then they would all go out at night to get loose. I wasn't in it for the evening program, but meetings would start to run late. One thing would lead to another. I'd get invited to be someone's designated driver, and I kind of wanted to be like Pablo. But occasionally I didn't have to drive anyone home, so I might have an occasional drink. And as that pattern continued, the occasional drink turned into something a little bit more. I got more involved in this group. I got promoted. I had awesome titles, and we'd go to these conferences interstate. But as the work grew, so did the partying. We'd go out and get blind drunk and have a great time. But I found myself waking up in unfamiliar places more often than I would have liked. I still wonder what my life would have been like if I'd taken Pablo's advice and only ever gotten drunk once. But those years of opening young eyes to the world gave me a sense of purpose. So when my time with that youth organization finished, I felt empty, cast out, and useless. I scrambled to find anything else, but I felt like I had no ties to this place anymore. I couldn't go back to uni. I'd squandered 3 degrees to procrastination and partying. I couldn't find any work that felt meaningful, and the UN people didn't want anything to do with me now that I wasn't involved. The past few years of leading a double life, living at home, meant that I'd alienated my family, and I wasn't really in a position to try and repair that relationship. No job, no relationships, and home didn't feel like home anymore. I did what every aimless 20-something does. I moved to Vietnam to become an English teacher. I decided this was going to be my calling. This would be my chance at a fresh start. I would reinvent myself and learn to adult. I would get organized and fend for myself. No more sheltered existence, no more procrastination, and no more partying. And best of all, nobody would know me there. So I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could be myself without any of the hang-ups that Mashud had. Well, in my first 2 days, I landed 4 job offers, found a nice secluded penthouse apartment, and discovered that Hanoi had a pretty pumping nightlife. Couldn't really help myself. I calculated that in 10 hours of teaching, I made more money than it took to cover a month's worth of living expenses. And with no eye to a future in Vietnam, I didn't really need to save it. I was handy because there was no shortage of ways to spend it. See, there were festivals and weekend rages always being put on by Hanoi's expat community, and I went to pretty much every single one of them. I would go to open mic nights and do covers of my favorite rap songs. Made a bit of a name for myself, and I would always be having fun. It was so much fun. I was living in a bubble of excess and short-sighted fun. By the time of my return flight home, I was a wanderer with a penchant for performance, no ambitions, and more stories than memories. When I moved back into my parents' place, I did my best to walk that tightrope between son and party animal. But before long, I had to move out just for the sake of my own space and my own sanity. I feel like my family didn't really get me. We just didn't get along. Mum suggested that we go on a pilgrimage to Mecca. What would I even do there? No, I felt most at home when I was out somewhere, so the partying continued. I found it easy to make friends now that I'd taken up drinking. I would just hang out with anyone who struck up a conversation. There was something about my ability to sing or rap along to whatever played in those clubs that seemed to surprise the people around me. I had a voice. Sure, I was just copying what other people had written, but people were listening to me. How do you remember all those words? Bro, you're like really good at doing the accents and stuff. Oh God, I didn't know that you could rap. Said one particularly drunk girl after I'd nailed the Nicki Minaj verse on Monster. I guess she thought I was the king. And that fueled me to get on more stages. Started going to open mic nights and amassing a small following. A few nights a month, I'd get up on a stage with a mic in my hand, and like a king, I'd hold court over my loyal subjects. This was it. This was my calling. This was where I belong. Of course, I wasn't meant to fit in. I was meant to rule. I was better than everybody else. Pablo would be proud. I was the king of everybody. And now, I had the key. Ding dong. Wrestling with your demons, I already pinned on. Never mind what I seen in my dreams, yeah, already pinned on. You ask if you can have the keys, yeah, I'm the one that mints on. Keys to the kingdom. New face on the block. Beat like a night vision Paris, baby, that's hot. And you can bet I'ma be calling out all the shots. Baby, I'm giving up God and I'm done with the pot. Baby, I'm not. Everybody knows I'm a winner. My rap so fat that my gut looks thinner. Take no photos cause my beauty's inner. Take me to church cause baby I'm a sinner. I'm about to go gorilla via Kong gorilla. Making that skrilla like Godzilla. Six got sick but my Godzilla. And I'm murdering these rappers for breakfast like a serial killer. Kingdom. You're wrestling with your demons, I already pinned on. Never mind what I seen in my dreams, yeah, already pinned on. You ask if you can have the keys, yeah, I'm the one that mints on.
Keys to the kingdom. I can see the world from the comfort of home, seeing everything from Peru to Ibiza, stacking margaritas with a styrofoam. And would you look at that, a leaning tower of pizza. I'll meet ya when we go down to Giza. Been a while since I swam in denial. Wild child smile, but I roll you up, a death roll style like a crocodile. I've been on the roll like an alligator, with trees so sticky like the Everglades, no negator. You can't refuse me, that's why these lames all trying to use me, and I'm Pikachu. And all these Ashleys wanna choose me, yeah, I'm the bomb. And there ain't nobody that can ever defuse me, I defeat ya. John Travolta, lightning fast and I grease ya. A matter of fact, I let the record show that I beat ya. A real pleasure to meet ya. Maybe one day I could get to teach ya, but until then call me Monster Mash. I'm the creature that's one hell of a keeper of the kingdom. You're wrestling with your demons are already pinned on. Never mind what I seen in my dreams, yeah, already pinned on. You ask if you can have the keys, yeah, I'm the one that mints on. Keys to the kingdom. Okay. Hypothetically, if you question me, you will see I'm the teacher here, there's no testing me. Proper prince, rest in peace, rapid pedigrees, flowing in my jeans, blowing in the breeze. All my enemies are blowing me, knowing me, there's a chance I'll go and change my flow again. Me, myself, and I, fighting toe to toe again. Wanna know how I keep it tight, check my hole again. God like Barbie bait, yeah, they call me Holy Game Kingdom. Yeah. You wanna try and kill a track like this, but it's been done? I've arrived, so step aside, yeah, we lit up. Can't you see? You can't be me, yeah, I'm the big one. And this is my kingdom. Woo! Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. This is my kingdom. Yeah. Keys to the kingdom. Kingdom. Keys to the kingdom. Keys to the kingdom. Keys to the No longer will I be told to be nothing but a pretender. This is my stage now, so I'm gonna take center. I didn't come for any participation medal. Taught myself to ride this bike because I know how to pedal. I always had my eyes on the prize. I maintained my mentality before it became my demise. See, I did this. It was all me, so I give no thanks to the G.O.D. You can call this burning bridges, but I ain't to blame. I'll even give you the matches and you can light the flame. Fire doesn't scare me, burning pages with ink from my pen, writing my apocalypse. Amen. Amen to the same men that'll play dead when I came in on the pavement. Sidewalkers, side talkers, nicer in the day than the midnight stalkers. Did it on my own, didn't need no spotters. Worked to the bone, had to bleed on my jotters. Ain't nobody broke, gotta keep this knowledge. Giving up the home for the cheese, no cottage. I got no time for humility. Envious types will be killing me. Doubters, I told him, just wait and see. Now that I'm older, it's plain to see. I painfully stated I'm made for this greatness. I waited with patience to take a seat. Head of the table, I'm willing and able to write my own fable, my legacy. Glory be to the glorious. I was born for this, now I'm victorious. Never short of skill, but I'm sure of this. To the game, I'll be notorious. Forced to wear my crucifix, my cross to bear till I'm through with this. Lost my way when the truth was missed. Lost my cool, but solitude is bliss. But why does the bliss turn into a blister? Fame is a dame, it hurt when I kissed her. Turned her a cane, took it all in a twister. Gave her my all, preferred other misters. Took it for granted, I wasn't pretending. Wasn't receiving the things I was sending. What have I got? No family or friends. And the only thing left is for me to just end it!
They say in every ending is a new beginning. In so many ways, crashing and burning out of the nightlife felt like the end of me. I had alienated everyone I cared about in pursuit of new people to care about me. I'd fabricated a persona based on external validation and feedback. Tired, burnt out, and sick of the sound of my own voice, I went to a silent meditation retreat in Indonesia. I'd heard nothing but good things about Vipassana meditation from some of the most interesting people I'd met on my travels. Everyone saw different things and had unique experiences, but every story had one thing in common. You come face to face with your true self. A lifetime of creating an identity I didn't recognize had led me to this point. I didn't know what I liked or disliked anymore. I just felt lost. I despised being alone, so I surrounded myself with people who didn't care about me. I bent myself so far out of shape to be liked. I hated who I saw in the mirror. There, in the jungle outside Jakarta, I went in a way I never had before. I relived experiences with new perspective. I saw myself through the eyes of one of the bullies on the playground. I felt confused and threatened by this kid who sounded funny and didn't get along with anyone. In a way, I felt sorry for the little weirdo, but all the other kids were making fun and I didn't want to be on the receiving end with him. I just wanted to fit in. I saw myself through the eyes of my high school girlfriend. I felt hurt and betrayed by a boy so desperate to be loved, but afraid to admit that he was in love. He was so ashamed of what his family might think, he never stopped to consider how I felt. The truth is, it hurt to hear that we were just friends. Being forced to pretend to be someone else felt wrong. I saw myself through the eyes of my dad, reliving that conversation about The Simpsons. I felt sorry for my son, the butt of the joke at his school. Either he was too desperate to be liked or he didn't realize, but he would rather defend them than to hear me. We were proud of who we were and where we came from. But in that moment, I felt bullied being compared to a cartoon character. And I found God. Or at least, God found me. Here I was, a Pakistani Muslim, running away from everything he ever knew, in a jungle, on a mountain, in an even foreigner land, practicing an ancient Buddhist technique, seeking guidance spiritually from a foreign force. And yet, when we sat down for the first morning's meditation, the instructor's voice was interrupted by the call to prayer. I wept as I realized I'd allowed human dogma to push me away from the divine. All those years that I had run away from God, thinking He had abandoned me, and He'd been with me the whole time. And now, I had to turn back towards God. The day we finished the retreat, I called my parents to catch them up and let them know about everything I'd been through. They were delighted to hear from me, but when I suggested that we go to Mecca to do pilgrimage, Mum was overjoyed. I still remember the first time my eyes saw the Kaaba, the holiest site in Islam. The deep black shade of its covering, the unnaturally vivid light it exuded from within, stopped me in my tracks. I was overwhelmed by this feeling that I was in the right place at the right time, that everything I had done had led me here, now. Every mistake, every wrong path I'd gone down had simply been a detour to get to this point.
I took the scenic route. You know that seeing's believing. I used to be blinded by feelings of fear and doubt. Now I'm on scene and I'm reeling to shout it out. Religion or deen got the same meaning, and now I can't live without. God isn't just a celebrity making us follow through every step of a recipe. Human divinity, breath of the maker, makes us move A to B. Isn't it plain to see? Follow your course to follow his plan. You got your own, and every woman and every man. The journey's the same, but each path is a branch. Mine used to be random. Worry about looking all handsome, holding my health to a ransom, or reckless abandon. Look what that has done. Dropped out of uni 3 times, my grades always bleak, never got overseas. Moved overseas to escape from my problems, and now I can see the problems with me. Thought I was having fun growing up, saw how it's blowing up like it's some C4. I took the long way around, and now I've been found, cause it's only a detour. Now I'm just trying to be more. I was misguided just before, on the way down like a seesaw, long way around like a detour. Long way around like a detour. Now I'm just trying to be more. Long way around like a detour. This life is so filled with distractions, no navigation, only inaction. That's why when they hate, all they get is reactions. Idle believers, so quick to their anger, thinking their rage and disdain are the ways to display your love for your faith. Huh? Blink and you miss all the tricks that they get us to ditch from our ways, so don't get complacent. Thought I was fighting for justice, but anger is just as destructive as hate. I took the long way around, and now I've been found, cause it's never too late. Now I'm just trying to be more. I was misguided just before, on the way down like a seesaw, long way around like a detour. Long way around like a detour. Now I'm just trying to be more. Long way around like a detour. Long way around like a detour. Long way around like a detour. Yeah, Saturday school as a kid. Didn't know why, didn't make sense. Try as I might, I could never fit in. I struggled with friends, did not comprehend the fact that we're learning about heaven and hell while everyone else is living in sin. Struggles within made it harder to want to be good for a goddamn God I don't get. In a sense, this is innocence lost. My innocence of what's right and what's wrong. Oh, the light, how it shone, and I thought it was gone. Couldn't stand it for long, so I'm writing this song and I'm fighting my thoughts. Temptation is strong, but I got my resolve. Take every chance to say once and for all. No voicemail for heaven, I'll answer the call. Long way around like a detour. Now I'm just trying to be more. Long way around like a detour.
I was finally coming face to face with myself. Those 10 days sat in silence allowed me to see how far I'd come in a single lifetime. Sure, there were plenty of reasons to change my ways, but I also counted the ways I'd changed for the better, and I needed to give myself credit where it was due. From being laughed out of a school assembly for stuttering in a language that wasn't my own, I'd become a performer. Once mocked for my accent, I could now bend and break words to my will. And best of all, I'd retained the ability to speak my native Sindhi, which made it easy to pick up other languages along the way. Whether I was haggling in Hanoi or joking with the Germans at the Model UN or explaining to the Pakistani customs officer that I understood everything he said about me in Urdu, language had become my armor, not my weakness. And now, I'd learnt a new language.
Shouldn't have to translate, but I can't wait. All these feelings inside that I can't take. Need to find a way to say what I can't say. Every day trying to make the moves that I can't make. See the opportunities passing me by. Listening to the tunes, bringing tears to my eyes. Feeling so alone with no one by my side. Wish someone had listened to the words in my mind. नंढपुण में ख्वाब डिठा सिर्फ उए सुकून ॾियन गाया पियो कंहिं वॾे मैदान में जेको बि चवां पर सभई होशियार थियनि. Fast forward to the Lincoln Park, we're in Hampton Park from Hyderabad. पर थी न तो सघे के घर विसार. मुंहिंजो प्यार मुंहिंजो दिल पाकिस्तान. पर हे बि त घर हिते गाना हलन पर पम पम हिते छा पिया करन. तकड़ो ॻाल्हाइण शाइरी ॿुधाइण ढोल वॼाइण ही सभु मुंहिंजो ॼाण. I know I got a story to tell, and if I tell it well, then they'll understand it. Born overseas, but my thoughts were released when I speak hip-hop. Yeah, that's my language. Yeah, hip-hop is my language. Yeah, hip-hop is my language. Yeah, munji zaban. Yeah. Hip-hop, my language. 1994 फ्लैट में रहंदे मूंखे वो गानो खपे न इहो न हो वारो जैसा पप्पा गाईंदो आहे हो जमालो पर कैसेट ते जीअं हलाए सघां लाइन किंग वांगुरु सां गाए सघां गाईंदे गाईंदे कपिड़ा लाए सघां हंध में गायां जैसी जाग आए अञा. Every time I'd open my mouth, all the thoughts coming out sounded strange to the outsiders, so I'd shout louder till they heard me. And then they'd say something just to hurt me. Gotta find a new voice. Try to fit in with the crowd, try to drown out the rude boys. Gonna do what they do. Take a beat, bring the heat. I'ma take them all to play school. Jay can be butcher, uwe sab lagan khush ain manyan jaan butcher. Hey music dip top. Sindhi zaban, angrezi maqam, par sirf munji jaan, wa munji hip hop. Yeah, my language. Woo! Munji zaban. My language. My language.
I never thought I'd call Australia home. In a way, it may never truly be that, but I also don't really know where home is anymore. I do know I belong here. I know I belong in Melbourne. It took a lot of heartbreak and isolation and working through those feelings, but I made it. Reflecting on my journey, I see a lot of the same attitudes in my parents. They made the decision to come out to this country with no idea about what awaited them. All they knew was that it was a chance at a better life for us as a family and for me as their child. They only ever wanted what was best for us without losing sight of where we came from. My mom worked so hard to raise my brother and I to be exceptional, to stand out in the best way. She taught us to value ourselves, our religion, and our education, and to not be bothered by the mean words of some kids on the playground. Instead, I resented her for bringing us out to this country in the first place and forcing us to be different. My dad worked hard to further his career, to provide the comforts that he could never have. He defied racism, 20-hour days, and insane distance from his family just to make sure we could live well. I questioned his dedication when he wasn't around for every moment of my childhood. My parents dreamt that their children would be seen as equals in this society and have access to the comforts and lifestyle that they never could. It's taken a long time for me to realize it, but I finally see. we made it.
Yeah, we made it. It's been a long time coming. Can you hear the bells tolling? Any second now till the credits are rolling. We made it. Yeah, we made it. Looking back, it seems crazy how we thought we'd lose hope, but we made it now. Yeah, we made it. Yeah, we made it. For all the times that we wanted to leave, losing our faith, didn't want to believe, but we made it. Yeah, we made it. Sure enough, we know it ain't done yet, but we can sit back and watch the sunset. We made it. We made it. Thinking back to your first steps in a brave new world, and your bubble hadn't burst yet. Doing everything with your best intentions, learning to survive with no apprehensions. No room for mistakes. Already took a chance and then they raise the stakes. Say the wrong thing and they look at you funny. Make the wrong move and they be taking your money. Or take your freedom, take all the things you believe in. So you kept quiet, never gave them a reason. But on the inside, you kept hope alive. There'd be more in life if you chose to strive. So even when you felt so alone, you put your best foot forward into the unknown. Now you see, we were in this together. Been through the worst, now it's all looking better. Can you hear the bells tolling? Any second now till the credits are rolling. We made it. Yeah, we made it. Yeah, looking back it seems crazy how we thought we'd lose hope, but we made it now. Yeah, we made it. Yeah, we made it. Everything that we've been through, every day felt the same in a rut, like a grave we got into. All we wanted was a way out, looking for the light that was coming any day now. All the things that we took for granted, looking kinda different now our feet were planted. The same home that's a source of pride feels like a prison when you're forced inside. You wanna get away but you don't know who to trust. You wanna take a break but you're doing what you must. When it started we were dreaming big, felt it in our hearts when it changed so quick. But here we are in the story of a lifetime. Made it through the dark, now we're living on the bright side. Everything is rosy when we're seeing it in hindsight. We made it! It's time to live the highlights. Can you hear the bells tolling? Any second now till the credits are rolling. We made it. Yeah, we made it. Woo! Looking back it seems crazy how we thought we'd lose hope, but we made it now. Yeah, we made it. Yeah, we made it. For all the times that we wanted to leave, losing our faith we didn't want to believe, but we made it. Yeah, we made it. Sure enough, we know it ain't done yet, but we can sit back and watch the sunset. We made it. We made it. Yo, it's my city.
I always thought I was different. Whether it was because I looked different, sounded different, or believed different, I always felt out of place. But the truth is, while I was obsessed with fitting in or standing out from the crowd, everyone else was doing the same thing. The kids who made fun of me just wanted to fit in themselves. The role models telling me to be myself were just telling me to celebrate my uniqueness. And everybody's just trying to find themselves. See, as a kid, I thought my identity was something that was handed to me by my parents. I was given a name, a religion, a skin color, and a language, and that these markers are what identified me as a human. But as I grew up, I was given a new identity by my peers, the media, the world. Now I was a suspect or a weirdo. Neither of the identities I had thrust upon me allowed me to fit in or make sense of the world. So I defined myself only by who I didn't want to be. Frustrated, I thought that I would find my true identity by diving blindly into new experiences. Maybe I would find myself in an underground rave or at the top of a mountain. But it was only by going inwards and reflecting, and coming face to face with my true self, that I realized I was just like everybody else. I had been doing the same thing all people do. I just hadn't known it. All those years I had spent blinding myself by playing the victim and rejecting everything, I'd still been building an identity. By rejecting Pakistani culture because it didn't allow me to fit in, and rejecting becoming an Aussie because, well, they rejected me, I was still building an identity of rejection. We don't find ourselves. We make ourselves, bit by bit, with every experience and interaction. By working on myself consciously, I was able to take control of my life and make peace with who I am. True belonging begins with the knowledge of who I want to be and who I am today. I have to reconcile all of my experiences and celebrate what they have done for me. If I want to truly belong wherever I go, I have to make my own third culture.
Born in the shadow of a Gulf War, less than a year old, already on world tour. Said good day before, assalamu alaikum. Parents taught him English and he learned as fast as they could. But it wasn't long before the kid in kindergarten with the funny kind of talk and the dietary requirements came to see that he was having trouble fitting in. It wasn't anybody's fault, it was the trouble from within. Third culture, everywhere I go I feel different. Everywhere I go I don't fit in. Two hometowns, nowhere to call home. Can't feel the vibe, so I make my own third culture.
Integrate, recreate, assimilate, extrapolate, innovate, cultivate. Third culture.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Picture this, just a kid in the homeland, surrounded by fam, but feeling lost like a lone man. Mother tongue fluent, but they wanna hear the Aussie. Mama said, do it, gotta make them all happy. But don't go outside, they might snatch ya. Dressed up in pride, it's unnatural. Keep your head down, don't act up. And if the kids are mean, then boy, it's just bad luck. And by the way, don't get too attached. 2 years home, and now it's time to go back. Say goodbye to all of your friends. It's gonna be a while till you see them again. The third culture. Everywhere I go, I feel different. Everywhere I go, I don't fit in. Two hometowns, nowhere to call home. Can't feel the vibe, so I make my own third culture.
Integrate, recreate, assimilate, extrapolate, innovate, cultivate. Third culture.
After dinner, Mama would put the kettle on the telly, then the Hasapima pedalons. Role models that look like him. Flat drawings with dark toned skin. Crime Stoppers and the current affair. The only brown faces with some facial hair. And how come Joey and Ross had no colored friends? Instead his only line is, thank you, come again. Yeah. So tell me what good are two tongues growing up? Gecko in the land of the blue tongues. Eat Big Macs, get fat, blame the biryani. Should I join the army? Drop some bombs on my aunties? Or should I wear the gold and green? Staying glued to the screens, watching scenes of the beach blonde teens, having dreams of a white picket fence and some kids, and a wife that pretends that my life don't exist. No better than a wedding to a foreigner, showing her the things that up with the fear of God in her. Saving her complex, saving her from this abomination of a nation of convicts. But tell me, can I just abandon the plans of a family stranded so far from the land? A mom and a dad thinking grand for the future. Raising two kids kinda takes getting used to in a strange new world. Sending out the most alien, hoping that the kids will get called Australian. How do you protect them from a culture assailing them? How do you do all that without failing them? There isn't a sure shot designed for a person out of place both in space and time. All I'm looking for is my peace of mind. Everybody's got a culture, it's time I built mine.
Third culture. Integrate, recreate, assimilate, Integrate, innovate, cultivate.
Third culture.